How's it going, y'all? You're with Rafa, the Pickleball Tech Dude, and welcome back to Pickleball Mythbusters, the series where I test commonly accepted pickleball concepts or rumors to see if they're valid or deserve to be busted. Today's topic is a little bit more interesting, and to understand the nuance, I need to take you back to 2024. In 2024, we saw the introduction of Gen 3 tech to the market for the first time via the Yola Original Gen 3. What started with a very powerful and, in my opinion, very fun paddle to play with ended with a legality ban, massive QC issues, a resulting lawsuit, thousands of dissatisfied customers, months and months of issues in resolving warranties, and of course, a lot of damaged trust. While the issues at the time seemed almost insurmountable, they happened to one of the largest companies in the space, and so you figured that they definitely had the finances and R&D to bounce back. One of the biggest and, in my opinion, best results from the entire situation is we now had a lot more consumers concerned with the durability of paddles. Fast forward to the past few months of 2025, we're seeing how a perceived lack of durability can impact a paddle launch from the start in a completely different context. This led me to the question that I investigated for today's video, which is, how does a company respond and learn from having a negative perception placed on a flagship product? And furthermore, what happens when that company is operating on a much smaller scale than the big corporations? Enter the story of the Arma paddle from Holbrook Pickleball. A couple of months ago, I had the opportunity to sit down with the CEO and head of R&D at Holbrook Pickleball, a small family-run company local to Logan, Utah, whose paddles are used by staple players on the major tours in the United States, including Tammy and Martin Emrich, Michael Lloyd, and Allison Harris. The topic of discussion was their upcoming launch of the Holbrook Arma. While Gen 3 technology has existed for quite some time at this point, the Arma used a dual-density polypropylene core, which was the first on the market to do so. While this was an extremely interesting and novel approach to minimizing dead spots towards the top of pickleball paddles, things didn't necessarily look too promising from the start. Soon after Arma review units were released, content creators began sharing x-rays of the paddle internals, showing imperfectly shaped and cut polypropylene cells at the exact line dividing the two densities of the core. When I brought this up in our interview, both CEO Bragan Holbrook and head of R&D Connor Coleman seemed relatively unfazed by the images, stating that while they knew the images didn't look great, they were very confident in their R&D process, which included anecdotal data from one of their top pros, Martin Emrich, who claimed to have used one of his Arma paddles for 70 to 90 hours. And to be fair to them, a top pro using a Gen 3 paddle for 70 to 90 hours is practically unheard of. I had a very similar experience with the first Arma paddle I had to play test. And so while everything was looking not great visually, I couldn't help but admit that for that moment pre-launch, the Arma was looking like it was going to make a splash. However, after the launch and after the Arma got some more time from other content creators, things quickly took a turn for the worse. Long story short, the Armas were breaking, and in some cases, they were breaking extremely fast. We're talking 5 hours of playtime. I received plenty of comments on the interview, as well as privately, completely disagreeing with any positive aspect of the conversation around durability of the Armas. And unfortunately, I had to agree with a lot of them. Things got to a point where I conducted a survey of nearly 200 people inquiring what they either perceived or experienced to be the least durable paddle on the market from a list, including the Yola Pro 4s, the Holbrook Armas, the Gearbox GX2s, and the Franklin C45s. And the Holbrook Armas took the top spot with over 48% of the responses. Something about that didn't quite sit right with me. Despite the several anecdotes I'd heard of quickly broken Armas, I'd heard many more about other competing paddles. Response bias is obviously a factor here, as those paddles may have sold more units than the Armas in the first place. But after everything I've experienced and seen on social media, what was really catching me off guard was that for a decisive number of people, this particular paddle from a small family-run company was considered the least durable. With multiple questions bouncing around in my head, I had to know what was happening here. And luckily for me, the people at Holbrook were more than willing to share their side of the story. But at that point, I was unwilling to take a phone call or a Zoom interview where anything says and goes as an answer. I'm a huge proponent in seeing is believing. So last month, I found myself in Logan, Utah, on site at Holbrook HQ to sit down with the Holbrook guys once again and see for myself what exactly went wrong and if Holbrook is moving in the right direction to fix things. Logan, Utah is a stunning city located inside a valley of mountains about an hour and a half outside of Salt Lake City. Sitting down with Holbrook, I was once again joined by CEO and co-founder Bragan Holbrook, but this time was also joined by his fellow co-founder, CPO, and brother, Kason Holbrook. This time, there would be no holding back. I went all the way to their turf, but I really only needed to see and ask about a few things in order to really determine if I was dealing with a company that had the right intentions and is working diligently to fix them, or if I was dealing with a company that deserved the negative attention and was simply trying to force me to drink the company Kool-Aid. We started off by addressing the Arma R&D process. How long was that process? Roughly how many prototypes were developed? Was the Arma really meant to be an industry disruptor, or was it just trying something new from a marketing perspective? And of course, in the end, after seeing all of the X-ray evidence pre-launch, why did Holbrook feel so confident in continuing with the paddle release? Here's what they had to say.
The Arma, the creation behind it was super intentional. Like, we did a lot of research behind it. Our developer, our product manager now, Connor Coleman, he was diving in, doing a lot of research on what's been done in other industries, what physics concepts work when you have a, ball to paddle, in this scenario, contact sport, right? So yeah, with us launching this paddle, it was definitely to disrupt the industry, and try out, this and come out with this new technology that we truly believe and know that works.
Yeah, we've been working on this for a year and a half, on the whole concept and trying it in a variety of different ways. As it took us a while to land on something that made sense and that was received well in our player testing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very we were very intentional to disrupt the industry.
It stacks up. I'd say 75 and 100 prototypes.
But that's not exaggeration. I think it was
for sure. Yeah,
at least 75.
That 75 would probably be the conservative answer.
Sometimes we'd send batches out to like Martin Emmerich, for example, our pro, and just say, "All right, narrow it down from here. What do you think?" And then of course we have some locals.
We do that. At the pro level, and then also just with high level players like 5-0 players that we're connected with, or our ambassadors, and get feedback, narrow down, and make changes where it needs to be, and then iterate again.
Of course, even when we saw, first of all, we should have X-rayed a little bit sooner, but even before that, though, we just felt completely confident based on the testing that we had received, like the feedback that we'd received. This paddle performs like any other paddle. Like it is amazing, and I love how it feels. This, that, and the other. So we have that performance element of and that side of things, and then we see, okay, well, Martin Emmerich, we do a lot of testing with him. He had put over 80 hours on the paddle, on the Arma. So we're like, okay, that's a good testing point. There's those elements, and then of course we were shooting it with the ball cannon as well, and so with the results that we were getting there, we're like, okay, we understand maybe the X-rays don't look the prettiest, but we feel completely confident in what we had been seeing.
From the outside looking in, it's really easy to interpret this situation as a company knowing something was going to go wrong, but not wanting to lose out on inventory they'd likely already purchased, and therefore pushing sales for the sake of sales in sort of a take now and apologize later approach. The reality, based on what I saw, is something much more close to what the Holbrooks were communicating. What I was seeing was a small company taking a leap of faith with some new technology that didn't know that they didn't necessarily have the right resources or ask the right questions of the manufacturer ahead of time. A company that was relying heavily on qualitative and play testing data, in particular from their pros. At least that's how I interpreted the issue. And so what I really wanted to know next was how Holbrook interpreted the issue and if there was anything they felt they needed to fix. Was there really an abnormal number of warranties on the Arma in the first place? What did they think of my survey results? What do they think drives that perception? And of course, in the end, after everything we've discussed about R&D, what exactly are they doing to fix it?
What we were doing, firing at 70 miles an hour, checking it. But we'd be the first to say, like, looking back, like, we should have done a lot more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Just really expanded, the amount of testing that we did to be ultra confident in it. Which, we were at the time, but now, you live and you learn, and we feel like, moving forward, we've got to do a lot more of that testing, in-house durability testing, more play testing, tracking hours, and things that way. So, and when influencers, and YouTubers, are posting x-rays of it, like Braden said, we should have done a lot more x-raying sooner, because that also, of course, raised some concern for us too. And immediately, with seeing those things, we go to our factory to make those changes. They were really good to work with us, make changes necessary, and we feel like we accomplished changes to make it extremely more durable.
Let's take away perception. Let's look at reality.
Yeah.
What are you guys actually seeing in terms of warranty rates on the Arma? And do you truly think that it warrants this branding of being so significantly less durable? Do you think that number is significantly higher than what your competitors might be seeing?
Yeah. So overall, we're less than a 2% warranty rate. I don't know if that's just totally 100% accurately reflects, maybe someone decides, oh, I'm just not going to return the paddle. Like it broke and I'm not going to warranty it,
So that's what we're seeing as far as, of course, stats wise on how things are going now. And if going back to even, the testing element of it, after immediately going back to our factory and making, adjustments to eliminate the core crushing, we've been doing a ton of durability testing on that, and we'll take paddles up to, 10,000 hits without failure.
Honestly, regardless of how a company might prepare for a situation like this, these were more honest and insightful responses from the Holbrooks than I was expecting, and it aligned well with a lot of the research I was doing on the side. For example, I polled several pickleball companies anonymously to determine the warranty rate on their flagship models. And if you compare that to that of the Arma, they end up being fairly similar.
We heard of a few reviewers, they're bringing out and mentioning some of their reviews on it and what they like about it. And of course, a lot of their reviews are saying, hey, performance is really high. We had some people say this could potentially be paddle of the year, but will this hold up? So then of course we're thinking, okay, we probably need let's really make sure that this is a good. And so after a lot of talks with our factory, we had actually found out that the whole thing with this paddle is that going back to some of those x-rays, if the core is too thick, it can core crush, right? A lot sooner. And that hadn't happened in any of our first initial batches. And so we were like, wait, what's going on here? And thankfully that was a quick fix that our factory could make to immediately implement and make sure that we didn't have a paddle that was core crushed, right? Or that wouldn't core crush a lot sooner.
Do you guys think that is more driven by experiences that people are actually having, or do you think it's more driven by social media bias?
Yeah. I'm sure there's both out there. And I hope if anyone had an issue, they would be reaching out, right? And we can talk about our warranty, because that's something that we would absolutely would want to take care of. If a reviewer gets one in their hands and it breaks, of course the reviewer is going to tell everyone about it, you know. I mean, we don't blame them. I would do the same thing. I mean, they have an obligation to their audience, you know, to share that. And so I think, you know, if a reviewer has that happen and they share that, I think the unfortunate thing is maybe just the context of it all, you know.
You know, as a brand, we want to take care of the customer and make sure none of that happens. But when that's out there, it's a hard thing to overcome. But that's okay. I mean, like Bragan said, we expect, you know, reviewers to tell their audiences about what's going on, and they want the audience to know and recommend the best paddles for the audience. So we totally get it, but yeah, it's just unfortunate, of course, and we understand it. We're trying to do everything we can to do what's right for the customer and to you know, be better for the next one.
As someone who does social media, I'm the first to say that anything put online can have major impact, both positive and especially negative for a business. And I completely understand how Holbrook has in this situation in the first place. They clearly made some mistakes in the R&D process. But this is the first time that I was really presented with concrete data and evidence that allowed me to question whether the intensity of the negative perception around the Arma was truly, no pun intended, warranted.
Was there anything else that comes to mind that you guys might have addressed pre-launch, just kind of looking back at how it went, knowing what you know now?
Yeah,
That's a good question.
good question.
You know, working more closely, which we've already started doing, but with our manufacturer. I mean, it's interesting the difference between some of the very first batch that had, you know, some of those initial issues that, and this thinner polypropylene, you know, it's the only difference in the thickness of polypropylene is like 300 microns. Is that what it was?
Yeah, and plus adding, you know, and then adding adhesives to make that even stronger. So.
And so it's just like the tweaks and variation of the manufacturing. One thing that we've already started to implement with them is in the production run, we are actually taking out paddles and doing durability testing out of the box right with the factory. We never want to produce a paddle that's not durable. And I'm sure every brand's going to say that, right? But I just think for us is especially with the narrative that has become about the Arma. You know, we think the Arma may be the best kept secret in pickleball. Now, the reason that we believe that and say that is because that performance element is unreal. You know, there's obviously been this foam craze, which we understand. We also, you know, of course, foam is something that's on our radar, as of everyone else. But even despite all the what has been launched in the foam world, this paddle performs unreal. We're not going to say it's going to last forever, of course. You know, we understand that. Yeah, I think that's kind of where we fit. Is there's this narrative that we're trying to overcome. You know, of course, if there are any issues, no worries. Like we have a 12-month warranty. One thing that we actually do is as soon as someone reaches out for a warranty claim, we will send them a paddle before we even get theirs back, before they even ship it. We just send it to them. So like the turnaround time is like a few days, because we know you know, if I'm a customer and I get a paddle and now I'm out of paddle because it broke, I'm out of paddle for a week and a half, 2 weeks, that's a huge deal. You know, if you're playing multiple times a week or at a tournament or whatever. So I think for us is we just want to always do right to the customer. If someone has, you know, a false warranty claim of some sort, we don't care.
That's not for us to decide.
Yeah,
we'll get you a new paddle.
Yeah, at least, you know, especially with, I think, you know, with the narrative out there on the Arma, as a smaller brand, you know, that really impacts us. And, you know, of course, we take ownership of that, you know. Like I said, we could have done more durability testing up front. We just feel that if someone has an issue, we're taking care of them, you know. I think that's what we care about.
I was able to end my conversation with the Holbrooks with a couple of topics that were most important to me. First and foremost, there was still mistakes in the R&D process that should have been fixed, point blank period. So how is Holbrook addressing those in specific head on, and how are they efficiently managing the warranty requests that they are receiving? And finally, and almost most importantly, despite the social media frenzy and negative perception of the Arma, it still managed to be a paddle that was trusted by pros. Wang Yung used the Arma blacked out at the Mesa Open, and they even signed pro Michael Lloyd during this time. So why do they believe pros continue to trust their paddles? And furthermore, how does the public believe that everything that I'm seeing and showing through this video isn't just the same average thing that any company would say in this situation? And here's how they responded.
We're really focused on developing, really high performing paddles, and we're confident in our ability to do that, and we're motivated to keep being better. Being better on all fronts, from the product to how we take care of the customer and all the different scenarios of business.
Yeah.
It's a good opportunity for us, and we just want to show everyone that we're trying our best, and we care about what we're doing, and we care about the customer.
I think the Arma speaks for itself performance-wise. I mean, going back to Michael Lloyd, we weren't really actively looking to sign another pro. But Michael he picked up the paddle, and he played with it, his choice, for 2 months. And we didn't even reach out because honestly, part of us was like, let's just see if this continues, if he continues to like the paddle. And anyways, it kind of got to the point where, after him playing with it for a while, he kind of is talking to Martin and Tammy. Him and Martin play together, and then it kind of gets back to us, and then so we start talking a little bit more. But to me, I think that was one of the greatest compliments of the paddle itself. Is he told me over the phone just right before we signed him. I asked him, you've been playing with the Arma, why do you play with the Arma? Why do you like it? And he's like, it's plain and simple. I've played with X, Y, Z paddles. He's like, I've been shopping for a while. I've been playing with a lot of these other paddles, but I just keep coming back to the Arma. We, despite, us, we should have done, some more of that durability testing up front. We worked very quickly when we had some concerns that were raised, and to work with our factory and make changes fast.
And we're implementing a lot more testing in, our future paddles that we're working on, and a lot of that testing we're doing right now, being a lot more rigorous, even on the ball cannon, adding more testing for, measuring force on, things like delamination. And we're measuring all those things and doing a lot of rigorous testing, putting a lot of hours on it, and doing a ton of hits, and with a big sample size. So,
despite the narrative that's out there, once again, it's great for us to learn. We can always improve. And that's where I feel like, also trust comes in some of those ways is by just the actions of the brand. You can say a lot of things, but actions speak louder than words. And so I think for us is we absolutely stand behind our customer, the 12-month warranty. We ship it out before we even get it. Little things like that, that means a lot to us, and I know that means a lot to the customer. I think the performance of moving quickly to make sure that we produce the Arma to be even that much more durable. Of course, changing the plans for future launches that we have, and making sure that this never happens again, so the customer never questions. And then, of course, the actual performance element of it that we talked about with the pros, and what we're constantly, getting these reviews and people saying how much they love the paddle. So I think, a core value, I always talk about our core values, but we win as a team every day. And, what does that mean to really win? And to have like a championship culture and environment. And I think it's those types of things where our actions are those things that are improvements, that are all about the customer, that are taking care of issues, and always delivering for them. And so that's what I think, Arma or not, like that's just what we stand for.
Sending a warranted paddle, even while just in the claims process, is a cost that companies even larger than Holbrook are not willing to bear. And so that was very telling to me in terms of the reflection that they did post-launch. being able to directly hear some of the changes being made to the Arma formula to help it avoid the same failure rate it's currently at was also very telling, as these are changes that definitely make sense from a structural perspective, in my opinion. In the end, what I feel like I uncovered during this process was a paddle was made that played fantastic, but it was made by a company that simply trusted the wrong data and trusted in the wrong resources. Holbrook continues to sell some Armas of the original formula and warranty them as needed. I don't personally agree with that approach, as any need to warranty an Arma from now on is going to only feed into that negative perception of the paddle. But what I am seeing on a more positive note, and what gives me great hope for Holbrook as they move forward to future launches, is a company that knows what questions to ask of their manufacturers now, and knows what changes to make to their in-house R&D process, and is actively pursuing opportunities to make them better, as made evident by being one of the only companies to attend USAP's Media Day earlier this year. After all of this, if you were to ask me, given the new formulation, would you now recommend the Holbrook Arma to more people? And while I love how that paddle plays overall, I still would have to say no, especially if you're a player who plays frequently or somebody who already core crushes Gen 3s very frequently. What I do want to clarify is that I'm not recommending the Arma to the exact same extent that I don't recommend other Gen 3s in this price range like the Yola Pro 4s. I simply don't think from a durability perspective, the Arma has shown to be any more durable than those paddles, but certainly hasn't proven itself to be any less. I would certainly recommend the Arma for the amount of power and sweet spot that you get over the Yola Pro 4 and over any Selkirk paddle in that price range. But the simple fact is that power paddles and Gen 3 paddles as a whole have gotten much better at cheaper price ranges closer to the $200 mark. Holbrook, in my opinion, has done nothing to deserve the disproportionate amount of negative attention to the durability on the Arma when it is very similar to that of other Gen 3 paddles in their price range.
Yeah, we're working on a few different projects for paddles, and we can't get into any details now, but
I mean, you can guess films
yeah,
are crazy.
of course,
so.
film's coming, and then
Our version we won't share, but
then
we think it's cool.
so that's for sure coming, and other things on top of that, down the road that we're working on that we feel like will be really big. So.
I hope this video cleared up any rumors or things you may have seen online with regards to the Holbrook Arma for good. So if you made it here to the end, thank you so much for watching and for your support. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment down below. What's been your personal experience with the Arma? What's your perception of it now, and has it even changed? And with all that being said, please stay happy, stay healthy, and stay out on the court until the next Mythbusters. Peace.
Again, thank you guys so much.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course.
That's a wrap.